All right, so in this video here, I want to go over the Strong Mom path, the journey from who you are when you start to the person and leader that we want to become. And so you can see here this layout of the different phases of going through this path and growing and becoming this brand new person. So just want to go over the entire path here, how everything's laid out, so you can see and try to identify where you're at, what you need to focus on in order to get to the next level, and then to the next level. And it's really important to realize that you cannot do level 3, level 4, level 5 without doing level 1 in full first. And then you move on to level 2. You can't jump around. We have to do things in order. So level number 1 here in the Strong Mom path is called the Seeker, which is basically trying to take all of the information in front of you and apply it properly. So the main focus you have here, just like I'm saying, looking at the data in front of you and putting a real game plan in place. Your biggest need is we have to get clarity on the type of action that we want to take. You've probably tried a ton of diets, a ton of programs, a ton of different detoxes, pills, whatever it is. And there's a lot of info out there about what diet is the right one, what exercise you should do, how many calories you should eat. And without getting really clear on where we're at, we can't figure out where we need to go. I made a video about this already, about getting clarity on who you currently are. But that's the main focus before you start to do anything, before you start working out, before you start worrying about how to eat and changing anything like that. We need to figure out exactly where you're at in life. So you need to ask yourself, what do you want? When do you want it? How are you going to get there? Why must you change? Who are you changing for? There's a bunch of questions you need to ask yourself and find real answers to. Don't just ask yourself a question and move on. You need to answer it also and really get clear on why you need to do this. The biggest thing about, or the biggest obstacle in this phase in life on this journey is overcoming the fear of being judged by your friends, your family, spouse, overcoming the fear of failing again because you've probably failed in the past and haven't succeeded on other programs or diets or things like that, and overcoming your bad habits of procrastinating or waiting until things are perfect. There's no ideal time to do things. If you keep telling yourself, well, I'm going to start tracking my food tomorrow, or I'm going to do better next week. Well, guess what? Next week is always going to wait until next week. You need to start doing something now. Those are the main focuses that you're going to have at the beginning of this process. When you start something new in general, you're going to fear failing. You're going to fear criticism of other people because they're not going to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And it doesn't matter. Your goals are your goals. So that's the main, or that's the first phase here inside of the Strong Mom path. Now, in this document here, which is available in the online course, if you scroll down, it kind of goes into a little bit more depth on what this Seeker phase is all about and what it'll take in order to get past it. So the Seeker graduate understands where they are, why they've failed in the past, and has a clearly defined layout of where they want to get to. Having the persistence to break through your initial fears and doubts. If you've done that, you're ready to move on to the next phase. If you can put in the work to get rid of your stories and your excuses, you can move on to the next phase, which is going to be the planning phase or the planner phase. The main focus in this is simply making yourself a priority. You know, being a mom, you schedule stuff for everybody else all day long, but you never actually set aside time for yourself. And it's really important that we do this because it's the only way that you're going to start enforcing new habits, routines, the rituals, the new lifestyle that you want in order for you to succeed. Now, the main questions that you probably have for yourself in this phase of life, once you figured out where you're going to go or where you want to go from the Seeker phase, you're going to ask, okay, how do I make time for myself? How do I structure your schedule better? How do you reduce chaos and overwhelm? And you're going to always have this feeling of mom guilt for putting yourself first, or you're going to feel like it's being too selfish to actually set aside time just for you, no kids, no spouse, no friends, no, just personal you time. And that's the main focus here in this section, is learning how to plan your schedule better so you're not living a reactive lifestyle all the time and waking up and just trying to put out fires. Wouldn't it be great to wake up one day and actually be able to control which fires happen, easily put the ones out that you don't care about and move on? But without planning and without creating time for yourself, creating space, planning your day ahead of time, using a planner or a schedule, which this is also in the online course, without doing any of that, you're not going to be able to move past this first step in the process of just coming up with a roadmap, getting the tools, and then not knowing how to use them. You just don't even come up with a plan for yourself on how to actually take action towards reaching person B that you've laid out on who you want to become. And of course, if you scroll down, we've got the planner phase here. If you've become a graduate of the planner phase, you've installed habits, routines, and rituals into your life. You successfully understand the importance of planning, and you're executing your planning muscle every single day, which means you're just taking time at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day to reflect, plan out the important things you need to accomplish, coming up with a to-do list, and actually taking action on what you need to get done. So once you've figured out your path, and you've actually committed to making time for yourself, the next phase is called the chasing phase, or the chaser phase. And this is basically learning how to be consistent and executing all of the stuff that I teach you. The videos inside of the Facebook group, the videos in the online course, doing the homework assignments, the mindset work, journaling, meditation. Diets aren't suitable for long-term realistic living, which is why the way that we go about nutrition is just giving you a meal plan to follow. But until you've done the other two phases, you probably shouldn't focus on those things. So the biggest need here is figuring out how to properly track your nutrition and workout all the time, making it a part of your new lifestyle. Workouts are non-negotiable, 3 days a week at a minimum. Doesn't matter what else is going on, unless somebody's got a broken bone or bleeding, you're making your workout. And tracking your food. It's so important to keep track of what you're doing and measure your progress daily and weekly so we can make adjustments as we need. If you're just guessing at what you're eating, you're not going to see any results. You will not make progress. You're going to lose a few pounds, gain a few pounds, lose a few pounds, gain a few pounds. If you don't track what you're eating, you're going to be lying to yourself and hiding information from yourself that you can use to your advantage to make changes. So the main priority in the chaser phase is learning how to implement those consistent habits of tracking food and working out. Now, you're going to ask yourself, well, how can you create a nutrition plan that works for you and the family if you need it? And that's why if you follow your meal plan and you pick and choose the foods that people like to eat and build a meal for yourself, as long as you stick to your portions, your calories, your protein, it doesn't matter. But again, we have to go back to the planning phase. If you haven't planned ahead of time, it's going to seem like you're trying to cook 2 meals at once. It's going to seem like nobody wants to eat the same thing. It's going to seem like you always need to be on a rush and just grab fast food. And that's exactly why we're not going to see progress if you do that. So the biggest focus is going to be shifting your mindset and realizing that if you allow the problems and obstacles that will happen in life overwhelm you and take control, it's going to cause you to procrastinate more. This is a long-term game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, okay? And the only way to make sure that you get to the end of this race is to start applying and making it a daily ritual and process for yourself and your family to make sure everybody stays healthier by moving more, being more active, exercising, playing outside, doing sports, and planning ahead with your food and coming up with a nutrition plan that the kids can eat it if they need to, that you know how to meal prep ahead of time if you need to, stuff that you can cook for the family. Now, if we scroll down for the chaser phase, in order to know if you've met this goal, if you've become this type of strong mom, the chaser graduate remains consistent with planning and creating structure around herself while not feeling selfish about making themselves a priority. If you still feel like you are taking away from your family, your kids, by doing something for yourself, then we need to have a chat, or you need to have a little talk with yourself about why it's important to fill your cup in order to continue pouring into everybody else's. Because once your cup is empty, you can't keep pouring into other people's cups. You can't be the best mom that you want to be for your family and your kids if your cup is empty. So it's very important to realize that we have to make this part of your day. It's part of life now, and the family is going to come along for the ride. So that moves us on to the grower phase. So this is basically learning how to make this part of life. Building up your strength, bringing your calories up, trying to get you to eat more. Since most of you have been under eating or tried diet, starving yourself, 1,200 calories, whatever it is. But we want to continue getting stronger, and we want to continue allowing our body and metabolism to function more efficiently, which means you can eat more food in accordance to your goals. Now, the biggest need in this phase is really staying consistent. It takes 21 days to build a habit, okay? If at any point during this process you get here and you slip up, you have to start over. It's essential that you stay consistent for at least 21 days while you're trying to install these new habits for yourself. This is where you really start letting go of the old person that you used to be. But you're going to have a really hard time mentally accepting the fact that you can lose weight and eat more food, because you've been told most of your life the diet industry has lied to you for years about eating less means lose weight, and that's not the case. There are countless moms here who prove that is not what actually happens in reality. If you're working out, you're staying more active, and you're eating properly in accordance to what your body needs, you're probably going to need more food than you're getting. You starve yourself, your metabolism functions at 10% of its capacity, and you wonder why you can't lose weight. So the biggest internal struggle here is going to be overcoming that story that you have inside of yourself, that you tell yourself you're going to gain weight if you eat more food. It's a lie. And you need to sit down and figure out why it's a lie for yourself. Why is this story not true? Look at it from a different point of view. Change your perspective on how you look at food. And we scroll down in order to know how, if you've done that or not. The grower graduate has the discipline, resourcefulness, and power to run through brick walls as they arise and to gain perspective when stories pop up. What that means basically is, at this point, you know how to plan your day. You know how to plan your meals. You work out 3, 4, 5 times a week. You never miss your workouts. But now you're trying to figure out, okay, well, actually, how do I shift my mindset? How do I actually make this a permanent thing? And we have to start dealing with the stories and excuses that come up when obstacles and roadblocks happen. And that's exactly why when you utilize the stuff in the online course about determining where you're at in life, what are the facts when it comes to stories and obstacles, and removing emotions from issues that you have in life, then you can shift your perspective, think about things from a emotionless point of view, and come up with a game plan for yourself so you don't get stuck and sucked into the old stories, the old mindset, the self-doubt, the self-fulfilling prophecy of failure that you're used to. Okay, this is a very crucial part of this journey. Now, if we scroll up, the last phase of this is becoming the leader. The leader and role model that you envision for yourself. That strong mom that you know exists inside of you. Well, How do we know that we're there? Your main focus at this point is teaching and leading exactly what you're living and learning inside of this program. Applying it and letting it kind of ripple out into the family. Let it apply to your kids. Teach them how to use this information for themselves so they don't go through all of the stuff that you've gone through in your adult life. Teach it to your spouse. Teach it to your friends. The biggest need here is just staying consistent, making it part of your life, figuring out how to balance everything now. Sometimes you can go too far on one end and lose part of being a mom. But if as long as you stay consistent with your planning, your nutrition, your workouts, and sharing what you learn, you'll find that balance is going to be the biggest part of this process. And you're going to ask yourself, okay, how can I apply this to other people? Who can I teach this to? And the internal struggles that you're going to ask yourself, or the stories that come up inside of your head are, you've put in all this work and effort and mental energy over the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 months to become this new person. And you're wondering if it's going to stick or if it's just going to slowly fade away over time. And as long as you've adopted the habits and really shifted that mindset and made this part of not only your lifestyle, but your family's lifestyle as well, you will have permanent change. But again, if all you focus on is just nutrition, just exercise, those external tactics, if we don't do this mental work, eventually those old habits and bad thought processes and stories come back into play. So if we scroll down to the leader here, the leader graduate, how do you know if you've made it? Basically, how do you know, okay, I have won. I am the strong mom that I want to be. You've built space and growth inside of yourself, and you are now more emotionally intelligent. That way you can work through the stories and excuses you have for yourself. You no longer have a victim mentality. That's going to be one of the biggest light bulb moments in your life, is when you stop blaming others and you take everything, you take ownership for it all. Just never be a victim again. Learn how to overcome anything that's thrown your way. That's when you know you've made it. But if you still find yourself making excuses, stories, finding reasons why you shouldn't work out, why it's okay to fall off on your nutrition, if you start blaming other people, you haven't made it. That's why the mindset work is so crucial. That's why step number 4 before you get here is so vital, implementing those habits and changes. So that is the Strong Mom path, the journey that you are all on. And again, we have to learn how to crawl before we can walk, before we can run, before we can jump. It's a process. And we need to start at the very, very beginning and develop a roadmap on who you want to become so you can plan ahead better, so you can figure out how to apply this toward your life, so you can let it apply toward your family's lives and your kids' lives, and you can share it with other people, and you can install this new mindset and lifestyle for yourself so you can have a permanent shift and change in your life. Because if we don't do this, 6 months from now, if you lose a bunch of weight and these old habits creep back up and you gain the weight back over time, we're not successful. And you're going to go back to the same yo-yo, up and down, start and stop crap that you've dealt with for years. So if you follow this path, you will reach your goals and have long-term success. It is available in the online course. In the Strong Mom path, click the document, download it, print it out, look at it every single day. Use it as your roadmap to measure where you're at on this journey.